Just when passion peaked, my husband's private phone suddenly rang. On a whim, amused by my own mischief, I snatched it and answered. "Kaiden?" A timid female voice came through the line. My heart gave a sudden jolt. I straddled Kaiden's hips, holding his phone in silence. He replied coolly, "What is it?" At the same time his waist gave a mischievous thrust deeper. I bit my lip hard and let out a muffled groan. On the other end of the line they must have sensed something, because there was a long pause with no response. Growing impatient, he said sharply, "Say it. I've completed the task you assigned. Should I bring it to your office tomorrow?" "Yes." Kaiden frowned, warning, "Don't bother me outside of work hours from now on. Even the biggest case won't go to court at night, I need to be with my wife." He slammed the phone down, tossed it aside, and pulled me along. After our tryst he went to shower first. I picked up Kaiden's phone and unlocked it with practiced ease. I found the number from just now, no label, no previous call history. I copied the number into Facebook search, no such contact. I tried adding it as a friend by entering the number. A black avatar popped up and their posts were set to invisible to strangers. The sound of water in the bathroom stopped. I restored the phone to how it had been in the background and silently put it back where it had been. Kaiden walked out wrapped in a towel. I smiled and, feigning casualness, asked, "Who was that just now? Why was she calling you so late?" He frowned, a look of disdain flashing across his face. "A student the supervisor just admitted last year. She was sent to the firm last month supposedly to get some experience. She's hopeless, can't understand a single contract. I don't even know how she got into grad school." I nodded and joked, "You haven't told me any of the firm's latest news lately. Do you not love me anymore?" He didn't answer, he just pinned me to the bed and nipped my earlobe. "So it seems I didn't love you enough just now, did I?" I immediately begged for mercy. "Honey, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." No, I won't," he said. "I have a flight to Paris at 7 tomorrow morning for a business trip." I pushed him away and bolted into the bathroom as if my feet were greased. Warm water poured down from above, but my heart felt uncommonly cold. When Kaiden's firm was first established he was almost constantly away on business, attending functions, drinking, anything to drum up cases. In those days I often saw him only once every few months. That continued until he won an almost impossible case. From then on, he became famous overnight. After that he no longer had to go looking for work, cases came to him in an endless stream. From that point he adopted a rule. He must not be disturbed outside of work hours. That rule was known to everyone at the firm. An intern. What kind of case could be so important that it required calling him in the middle of the night? Besides, it was too clean. Apart from tonight's call, there were no previous call records on the phone. I stood quietly under the shower, letting the water wash over me. 5 years of dating, 3 years of marriage. Even every milestone in Kaiden's life since he was 17 was stamped with my name. Over the years we've spent together, it seems we've never run out of things to say. We are each other's best friends and the people who understand one another best. Precisely because I know him so well, I notice the slightest slip of emotion from him immediately. And in turn not knowing his rules and calling him in the middle of the night wouldn't be enough to make me suspicious. What made me suspicious was his reply afterward. "I know his graduate advisor, I've even had plenty of contact with him before." He was the sort of person like a clear breeze after rain, and the students he took on were all chosen by him personally. There was absolutely no way he could be as dim-witted as Kaiden described. Yet his perfectly timed frown and the fleeting look of disdain both unmistakably revealed his contempt for that junior. Besides, someone he despised so much as Kaiden personally mentored her, even gave her his private phone number. I didn't want to doubt him. But the seed of suspicion had been planted. I was never one to sit back and wait for doom to come. Rather than let that seed take root and grow, I would confront the truth head-on. 5 days later I wrapped up my work in Paris as fast as I could and flew back a day early. Of course, I told no one. When the plane landed, I sent my assistant home to rest and took a taxi to the law firm alone. I went straight to the floor where the firm was. A delivery worker from the cafe downstairs followed me. I hadn't been there many times, and the new receptionist at the firm didn't recognize me, so she naturally barred me from entering. I deliberately chose the time when Kaiden would be in court, so it was of course impossible to call him. I searched the contacts for a long time before finding his partner's number, and was just about to dial when a voice suddenly sounded. "Leora, Senior?" I looked up and saw a young, pretty girl. We exchanged a glance, and she immediately gasped softly. "Senior, is it really you?" The receptionist glanced at her with a puzzled look. She explained who I was while coming forward with warm hospitality. "Senior Leora, I'm Kaiden's junior Luna. Kaiden's in court. Since you came, why didn't you tell him? He would have arranged for someone to pick you up. Kaiden and I went to the same university, so calling me senior was fine." Still, was she the dim-witted junior Kaiden had mentioned? I smiled. I finished the business trip early and passed by on my way back. I wanted to surprise him, didn't expect the timing to be so unlucky. She sighed in agreement and, with the receptionists pressing around her, walked me inside. From our conversation I gleaned two pieces of information. First, she really was Kaiden's fellow apprentice and junior sister, but she'd already joined the firm a year ago and had long since been made permanent. She was by no means an intern. Second, the firm did hire 3 interns this year, but they were all men. I calmly handed out desserts to the members of the firm, but my mood had already plunged to freezing. Kaiden lied to me. But if it wasn't my junior calling, who could it have been? Out of the corner of my eye I scanned the few female lawyers left at the firm. Could it have been one of them? I replayed that woman's voice from that night. My instinct told me it wasn't any of them. Whoever made that call to Kaiden was someone more worth investigating. I used the excuse of being tired from the flight to go rest in Kaiden's office and wait for his return. Minimalist decor, ordinary black, white, and gray tones, cold and spare, just like him. The only things that clashed with the austerity of the room were the framed photo of the two of us on the desk and a pot of succulents. Pink, its leaves thick and plump, layered tightly like a lotus. Thanks to my previous boss being a gardening enthusiast, I had a clear understanding of succulents. Succulents aren't actually as easy to keep as people think, especially in City's hellish high heat and humidity. Keeping them alive might not be hard, but keeping them looking this beautiful takes a lot of care. But Kaiden is a quintessential plant killer. I'd given him quite a few potted plants before, and without exception none of them survived a week in his hands. Finding out who had been tending it was easy. I reached out. The succulent rolled off the table. Clang. The loud noise drew the law firm staff. Luna was the first to rush in. "What's wrong? What's wrong? Senior sister, are you okay?" A few other female lawyers trailed behind, chattering with concern about me. I shook my head and pointed to the scattered succulents on the floor. "I'm fine. I accidentally knocked the succulents off the table just now. As long as you're okay." Yes, it's good that you're not hurt. I'll go call the cleaning staff." Everyone chattered at once to comfort me. I scanned them all and couldn't see any different expression on any face. Maybe their acting was that good? We exchanged a few more perfunctory words, still without anyone showing the slightest change. It wasn't until everyone returned to their posts that a woman in a cleaning uniform came in. She wore a mask, her head bowed, and without a word she picked up the shards of the flower pot, swept up the soil, then knelt again to carefully wipe the stains from the floor. As she knelt and bent her head to wipe, I saw a crescent-shaped purple birthmark on the back of her neck. A birthmark in that exact spot. I watched her busy as usual with an unchanged expression until she finished cleaning, silently picked up her tools, and headed for the door. When she reached the doorway, I suddenly spoke. "Vera?" Her footsteps didn't stop, but I clearly caught her hand tremble for a moment. Dara was my and Kaiden's high school classmate. Calling her a classmate flatters her too much. She should be considered an enemy. The darkest moments for Kaiden and me were all thanks to her. In high school, Kaiden and I attended the same elite school, and we were both famously poor students there. We were equally poor, equally high-achieving, equally ostracized and bullied. And the instigator of it all was Vera. Vera's first target was Kaiden. Simply because he sat in front of her during the big exam and didn't show her the paper. She splashed dirty water on his shirt that was starting to pill, deliberately hid his shoes with holes, tore up his test, accused him of stealing money, even framed him for peeking at a classmate in the restroom. They formed a small clique and went to the principal's office to report him by name, demanding the school expel him. At that time, I was the only one who stepped forward to say I believed him. As a result, I too became one of Vera's bullying targets. Of course, I knew what would happen if I spoke for him, but I couldn't help empathizing with him. Given the similar family circumstances, I knew perfectly well what he'd do after being expelled. Later, they heaped onto me everything they'd done to Kaiden. But I am not Kaiden. When I was 15, I was admitted to the best high school. My father disagreed. He wanted to marry me off to some idiot as a daughter-in-law. That was the first time I lost my mind. When that family came to the house, I grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed my father 3 times. My future mother-in-law was terrified out of her wits, and the idiot peed himself in fright. From that point on, I became famous overnight for a single fight. Of course, the consequence was that I almost ended up in a juvenile detention center. Later, my middle school homeroom teacher pulled strings everywhere, wrote explanations to the police, and produced my grades, which is what ultimately kept me from that fate. Although the teacher said she could sponsor my schooling and told me not to worry about tuition, I still chose to come to this elite school, solely because tuition was waived and there were bonuses for good results. From then on, I learned one simple truth. The ruthless fear the bold fear those who don't care about dying. I was a worthless life, might as well go down with everyone. So when Vera threw my backpack into the toilet, I didn't hesitate, I dragged her by the hair up to the roof. The whole school, teachers and students, the police, the fire department, reporters, everyone showed up. I still remember Vera begging me with tears streaming down her face to spare her. But no matter how she pleaded, I still jumped with her. Unfortunately for her, well, fortunately for us, the ground below was lined with inflatable cushions, and we both walked away unscathed. The incident blew up online, and everything Vera had done in the past was dug up by ever-resourceful netizens. The scandal dragged the Wong family into the public uproar as well. The Wongs run a high-end restaurant chain, and suddenly there was a wave of boycotts against their establishments. Their stock price plunged and kept falling. After that incident, Vera withdrew from school. The school, trying to repair its image, began to reform its atmosphere and tighten discipline. At least I never heard of bullying again before I graduated. I stared in a daze at that slightly hunched figure. Was it her? Perhaps someone at the firm had told Kaiden I was coming. He left the courtroom and rushed back immediately. I sat on the couch in his office, staring straight at the distant high-rises. When I heard someone open the door, I slowly turned my head. He took 2 or 3 steps toward me, crouched down, naturally took my hand and kissed it gently. What brought you to the firm all of a sudden today? Isn't it because I've missed you so much after being on a business trip for several days? I gave a soft smile. What? Did my sudden visit startle you? Kaiden sat down with me, wrapping his long arms around me and said indulgently, "What are you saying? You coming to see me is the surprise, I'm the lucky one." I pushed him away and sat up straight, choosing my words carefully. I think I just saw one of our old classmates at the firm. A perfectly measured look of puzzlement crossed his face. Who? I hesitated, then breathed the name softly, Vera. He froze, then took my hand again. You saw her? I nodded. He said nothing, simply watching me. Golden rays of sunset poured through the floor-to-ceiling window, and Kaiden's sculpted features gleamed in the light. He lowered his head and pinched my palm. Then he looked up and stared at me deeply. I want to try this method and see if it can cure my illness. That's right. Although later Vera's bullying of classmates was exposed and she was punished. Even though the school never again had incidents of bullying, Kaiden still couldn't move on from his past experiences. He developed severe post-traumatic stress disorder. His grades plummeted and the school began calling him in for talks. But he simply couldn't get into a normal learning state. The moment he sat in class his heart raced and he broke out in a sweat. A crushing pain surrounded him. At his lowest moment, he climbed up to the school building's roof at night. He sat at the edge of the roof for 3 hours. I couldn't help it and spoke up, "If you don't plan on jumping, get down, it's damn cold out tonight. If you catch a cold you'll be buying medicine tomorrow." He turned his head, astonished. "Leora? When did you get up here?" I shoved the tutoring materials into my backpack. "I've been here the whole time." "You?" I slung my backpack over my shoulder and glanced at him sideways. "I don't know why you were so desperate, but it seems you didn't really mean to die. Then live properly." The next day, he became my deskmate. Except for sleeping and going to the bathroom, he basically came and went with me during the day. I didn't understand him and was even very annoyed for a while. Not until later, when I went to university, matured, and started dating Kaiden, did I ask him whether he had a crush on me back then. He told me, in detail, about his state of mind. My heart ached for him, and I sincerely apologized for my past indifference. When it got serious, I asked him if he wanted to see a doctor. He looked at me with such deep affection. "You are my medicine." Although Kaiden seems to have gotten better over the years, I know that every time I am not by his side late at night he always wakes up startled. I looked at him, concern in my eyes. "Are you still affected by her now?" "I don't know." He shook his head, something complicated unspoken in his eyes. "At first I brought her in to torment her, to make things difficult for her, but after actually bringing her in I wondered, if I behaved that way, how would I be any different from the her I used to be?" I hugged him tenderly. "It's not your fault, you're too kind. If it really won't work, just fire her, okay?" He buried his face in my neck, voice muffled. "I'm not kind. I want her to see that the person she once bullied is now someone she can't reach, to make her feel bad inside." He made me laugh. He chuckled softly too. "Wife, don't bring her up. There's a new Japanese restaurant that just opened in the mall downstairs. Shall I make a reservation?" Vera's sudden appearance made me briefly forget about the phone incident. It wasn't until a week later that I returned to my alma mater to give a speech as an outstanding graduate. After the speech I chatted with my former counselor in the lounge. Suddenly the assistant waiting outside said someone was looking for me, claiming to be my junior. I told the assistant to bring them in, and it turned out to be Kaiden's junior, Luna. Luna followed the assistant in. Seeing me, a smile immediately bloomed across her features. "Senior, I happened to be back on campus today and found out about your talk, so I rushed over to listen." I chuckled. "Well, thank you for coming to support me." She waved her hands repeatedly. No, you don't need me to flatter you. You're so outstanding, the people who come to hear your lectures can't even all get seats. I just really admire you." I smiled and replied, "You don't have to admire me. You're just still young." She lowered her eyes and smiled sheepishly. The next second, as if she'd suddenly remembered something, she put what she was carrying down on the table in front of me. My gaze fell on the dessert she had brought, and I looked puzzled. "What is this?" She paused, an awkward expression coloring her face. "The last time I followed senior brother Tan to a hearing, after it ended we passed a cake shop nearby and he went in to buy a strawberry cake, saying it was for you, so I looked at her quietly. Maybe the atmosphere was too delicate. Luna spoke cautiously. "The strawberry milfy at the shop by the school gate is famous. You don't like it?" "Thank you." I gave a perfectly measured smile. "I like it very much." "You shouldn't have gone to the trouble." Luna's features immediately relaxed. We chatted a few more minutes. She took the initiative to ask for my contact info, then stood up to take her leave. No sooner had she stepped out the door than the assistant threw the cake into the trash can beside them. "Ms. Leora, can you believe it, these young girls nowadays, even brown-nosing ends up at your door. What a pity." She shook her head. You hate strawberry-flavored things more than anything. As a fruit, I like strawberries. But I detest anything strawberry-flavored. I didn't hear a word of the assistant's grumbling. I lowered my eyes and pondered one thing. If I don't eat strawberry-flavored things, then who was the strawberry cake Kaiden bought that Luna was talking about for? Of course Luna's words weren't necessarily reliable, maybe Kaiden hadn't bought it at all. At the same time, I remembered the time last week when I surprised the law firm. I had brought a variety of desserts, the one Luna took was the only strawberry cake among them. Also, I recognized a charm on Luna's bag that was identical to the one I had given Kaiden. I remember it was a giveaway from an event I attended. Kaiden told me he'd lost it. A late-night call from my junior sister? Luna and Kaiden? Everything fit. But why did Luna come to seek me out, a provocation? Or, trying to climb up? I took a deep breath and instructed the driver's assistant, find someone to look into Luna. The person the assistant found moved quickly. The next morning I received all of Luna's files. The dossier was thorough and complete, covering every experience since Luna entered university. I had a hard time describing how I felt after reading it. I sat motionless for a long while, then pulled out my phone and dug up the contact number I had saved just yesterday. Before I could press call, the other party rang me. When the call connected, Senior, Luna laughed lightly, shall we talk? Time, address. Half an hour later, I arrived at the cafe downstairs from the law firm. I waited there for half an hour, but Luna never showed up, and my callback went straight to voicemail. I glanced at the time and stood up to leave. Stepping out of the elevator and turning the dim corner, I suddenly caught sight of Kaiden's car. I remembered Kaiden saying this morning that he was going out to the county detention center this afternoon. Back so soon? I took out my phone and called him. After a few rings, he finally answered. Wife, what's up? I snorted softly, if there's nothing wrong, can't I just look you up, my great lawyer? He chuckled low, yes, your majesty, what would you have me do? I smiled too, nothing much, just asking when you'll be back. I'm not working overtime today, drive over and pick me up later. We'll go to the supermarket to buy groceries and cook at home. Okay, I'll be back in a bit, he suddenly grunted. My palm clenched without me realizing it. Honey, what's wrong? He paused, then replied in a casual tone, nothing, sweetheart. I just bumped the corner of the table while grabbing some files. Wait at home and be good. The call ended, and I stared, dazed, at the car gently swaying. If Kaiden had gone to the detention center, then who was in his car now? My question was quickly answered. The rear window rolled down slowly, revealing Kaiden's superior profile. Kaiden was in the car, so where was Luna? I stared fixedly in that direction, unable to name the feeling welling up inside me. After all, when Luna asked me out, I had prepared myself. I just didn't expect them to be able to, disgusting. I calmed down quickly, pulled out my phone, and turned the camera toward the car. After a while, Kaiden got out, dressed impeccably. I adjusted the zoom, trying to capture clear evidence. A woman's leg was the first to emerge from the car, pale and slender, marked with many bluish-purple bruises. She hunched over and crawled out, long disheveled hair falling across the side of her face. Something about it all felt wrong to me. The next moment the woman looked up, that face both unfamiliar and familiar filling the screen of my phone. Clang, I hadn't held my phone steady, it fell to the ground with a loud noise. Who? Kaiden turned and took a few steps in my direction. Who's there? It's me. Dara hurried after him, grabbing his sleeve. I just accidentally kicked the wheel. Kaiden spun around sharply, snatching his hand away with a look of disgust. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. Dara showed not a trace of wounded pride at being scorned, instead her eyes glittered with excitement. Fine, I won't touch you. Then next time, tie my hands like you did the first time. She pressed her palms together, face expectant as she stepped closer, one small movement at a time. Kaiden's eyes held a smile, but the next second the vein on his forehead throbbed and his gaze turned fierce. He raised his hand, grabbed her by the neck, and slammed her hard against the car. I warned you. Don't come near me without my permission. It wasn't until Vera's face had gone purple that Kaiden released her and strode away. Watching his retreating back, she touched the red mark on her neck. What a nasty habit, does he have no sense of chivalry? I stood dazed, leaning against the pillar where I had been hiding. The scene that had just unfolded replayed in my mind frame by frame, like a broken TV full of static. Kaiden. Vera. Kaiden. Vera, I murmured those two names under my breath. Curing illnesses, so this is how he treated them. My stomach churned with scalding waves, one after another rushing up my throat. I dug my knees in, knuckles whitening, my nails nearly biting into the flesh. Strands of hair plastered to my forehead by cold sweat trembled with each violent retch. Until, when it felt as if my insides were being hollowed out, a blur of white suddenly appeared at the edge of my vision. It was a hand holding a tissue. Wipe, Vera said, the corners of her mouth lifting as she looked at me with pity. Pity? She was pitying me? In an instant I understood she wanted to watch me break. But I refused to give her that. I took the tissue, expressionless, and wiped the stomach acid from the corner of my mouth. Shall we talk somewhere else? Under Vera's direction the car drove through the bustling city center toward a secluded urban village, winding through narrow alleys with 7 or 8 twists and finally stopping in front of a small building. The small building's walls were mottled and dilapidated. Stepping into the stairwell, my feet pressed on sticky steps, the old, battered motion sensor light flickered on and off. A fat rat nonchalantly scurried past my feet, running quickly along the wall and disappearing from sight. I walked slowly, step by step. Vera, ahead of me, was growing impatient. She leaned against the wall. Come on, Ms. Leora. She led me to the top floor and opened the door to invite me in. I didn't bother to be polite, one quick sweep of my eyes. Worn, cramped, dim. Just like her. What? Has Lady Leora been away from the slums for a few years and lost her touch? I said coldly, following Kaiden makes you live in a place like this? Her pupils narrowed, then she regained her composure the next second. Yes, it can't compare to your big flat in the city center, of course, but I'm already very satisfied. After all. She dragged over a stool and sat down. Kaiden spent 900,000 to buy this for me. I folded my arms and watched her silently, saying nothing. Oh my, Miss Leora, why have you gone quiet? She covered her mouth, exaggerated expression, what a head of mine, I even forgot that part of that 900,000 is yours. Sorry about that, but don't worry, I'll pay you back. This lot is going to be demolished soon, once I get the compensation, I'll return every cent. I gave her a look and smiled. No need, come flaunt it in front of me after you've actually gotten the demolition money. Also, you didn't bring me here just to show me the place you live. I glanced her over from head to toe, then nodded at last. It suits your temperament. Shut up. She twisted her face in fury. Leora. How did I end up like this? Isn't the main cause of all this? It's you. I cut her off loudly. You deserve it. People like you ought to live in shameful places like this for the rest of their lives, to rot. To stink. Ha, she said, a smile without warmth tugging at her mouth. Your husband is already with me. What exactly are you still confident about? She undid her shirt buttons one by one. Beneath her collarbone, marks of bluish bruises spread out. See? All of these on my body are the traces your husband left because he loved me. I remembered those late nights when Kaiden poured out his pain to me and, instinctively, asked, You mean, he loves you? She looked at me with contempt. You don't understand, the deeper the hate, the more intense the love. To prove it to me, Vera turned and went into the bedroom, coming back with a stack of photographs. She held them up like a champion's medal. This time, and this time, see. She stared straight into my eyes, smiling and whispering, every one of these photos was taken by him. After every time, he would keep a copy as a memento. Looking at these, he couldn't have been more thrilled. A look of remembrance appeared in her eyes. Our first time was when you had just taken the position of general manager. You went on a business trip to Japan. He stayed at the firm and didn't go home. At that time, I had nowhere to stay, so I secretly stayed at the firm, and then. She regarded me with composed amusement. Kaiden, he didn't drink, he wasn't unwell, and he didn't. I knew what she meant. It all happened while Kaiden was lucid. Even to the point of him taking the lead. My face showed nothing, even calmer than usual. Only my hands hung at my sides, my fingernails digging deep into my palms. The pain kept me grounded, made me even more composed. I looked at her calmly, pity in my eyes. Selling your dignity, even your body, to please the person you once despised most, is that how you get revenge on me? My words infuriated Vera completely. Her face contorted, she screamed hoarsely in fury, Leora, what do you know? You have everything, of course you don't care about a man, but I have nothing now, it's all your fault, you owe me. Her tone suddenly dropped, she lowered her voice, I don't want you to pay me back what you owe, just give me Kaiden, okay? You're the big CEO now, you can get any man you want, but he is my everything. I'm begging you, don't fight me for Kaiden, okay? He's already betrayed you, he's tainted. Do the merciful thing and divorce him, let him go to me, please? I laughed at the right moment. You say I forced him to cut you off, what do you think he'll choose? She shot her head up. I stepped closer to her, my lips parting slightly. When I was 17 I could already make you lose everything, and now. She hadn't finished speaking when Vera moved. Her expression was fierce, she grabbed the fruit knife from the table and lunged at me. Bitch! Go to hell! A flash of silver passed before my eyes, and I was shoved aside with force. Kaiden stood where I had just been, a fruit knife lodged in his stomach. He looked at me, concern in his eyes. Wifey, you're not hurt, are you? Then his body, beyond his control, began to fall backward. Blood ran down the hilt and pooled on the floor. Vera screamed, her hands trembling. I laid Kaiden's body flat, then spun and shouted down the stairs, Luna. Are you coming out now or waiting until the police get here? Kaiden was taken to the ER. Luna, Vera, and I went to the police station together. I produced the recording of the entire incident between Vera and me, and with the various pieces of evidence from the scene all pointing to Vera. Once we finished the statements we could leave. I stood at the entrance of the police station, looking out at a skyline of towering buildings all lit up. But, there was no longer that one light that belonged to me. At this time I should have been at home, eating and chatting with that person, then falling asleep in each other's arms. But now, I can never go back. I stood there dazed, tears slipping out uncontrollably. Luna stood beside me, saying nothing, only handing over a packet of tissues with a gentle movement. I didn't take them. Instead I turned to her and asked, why? From her solicitous manners, to her deliberate closeness, and the meeting scheduled down to the minute. Step by step she even used herself as bait, guiding me to uncover the real truth. Luna's eyes darted away. But even if she hadn't said it, I would have known. She liked Kaiden. In college she had often posted on the campus forum, openly declaring Kaiden to be the object of her admiration. After that she followed in his footsteps to pursue graduate study, and succeeded in getting into the same professor's group, becoming his junior apprentice. She even took the initiative to ask the professor to recommend her when an internship at Kaiden's firm came up. I don't know what Luna was thinking, jealousy, resentment, or something else. In any case, she alerted me. Otherwise, however I imagined it, I could never have pictured Kaiden with. I looked at her steadily, sincerely, thank you. Discovering you loved the wrong person is painful, of course, but it's still better than finding out years later that the person beside you had long ago betrayed you. I'm still young. I still have a chance to start over. I glanced at Luna one last time, then turned and strode away. Unexpectedly, Luna chased after me. She followed me step by step. I turned back, frowning tightly. Senior. She murmured. Why are you following me? She spoke cautiously, "Are you okay?" I rubbed the space between my brows, restraining the agitation in my chest. "The hospital sent word half an hour ago. Kaiden's surgery was successful and he's out of danger. If you go there now you might just catch him waking up." "What?" she said, stunned. I'm not in the mood to dance around with her. "You like Kaiden and want to be with him, right? Go then, he needs someone to look after him right now." "Like him? Me?" Luna's voice rose before she realized it. Wait a minute." She pinched the bridge of her nose. "Senior, although I don't know how you came to the conclusion that I like him, I still want to explain. I might once have admired him, even been in awe of him, but that was entirely because of you." "Because, me?" She nodded, opened her mouth as if to say something, then closed it again. After a long while she spoke anew. "I used to have an older sister." She looked at me with sad eyes. "Her name was Lucy. I know you certainly don't know her. She was a year ahead of you in Kaiden, and she was also a victim of Vera's bullying." I was stunned. Our eyes met, and we both fell silent. For a very, very long time, so long it felt like a century passed, I heard myself ask again, softly and slowly, "Your sister, is she all right?" She looked up at the sky, tears in her smile. Up there, no one should be able to bully her anymore, right?" Kaiden woke up. The first thing he wanted after waking was to see me. I ignored him and simply had a courier deliver the drafted divorce agreement. The courier called to tell me he'd delivered the documents, but Kaiden tore them up, and of course the delivery fee wasn't refundable. I laughed it off, left him a 5-star review and gave him a tip. He tried to call me and found that I had already blocked him on every social platform and contact method. He borrowed someone else's phone to reach me. But when I answered, his initial reaction was to hang up, and then get blocked. The place he was injured was his abdomen. Having just left the operating room, even sitting or standing would press on the wound, so he could only lie in bed. I thought that would stop him from pestering me. But late at night I received a call from the hospital. They said Kaiden had ripped off all his monitors and the unfinished 4, and warned that if I didn't come see him, he'd rather wait to die. I sneered coldly, "Then let him die. If he does, I'll come collect the body." After that, sure enough, I no longer received his harassing calls. Only every day the divorce agreement I had sent via errand runner arrived back in my hands in pieces of shredded paper. I thought Kaiden would have to stay in the hospital for at least 10 days or 2 weeks, so I didn't expect to see him in a wheelchair at my doorstep after just a week. He'd lost a lot of weight, his old suit hung on him, making him look like skin and bones. When he saw me, his eyes suddenly lit up like stars. "Wife." I passed by him and used my key to open the door. He followed, pushing the wheelchair. "Let me explain." Click, I switched on every light in the house. The living room walls were plastered with enlarged photographs. The moment he saw them, his face went pale with shock. "Don't look. Don't look." He spun his wheelchair, trying to rip those photos from the wall, but the wheelchair turned too fast and hit the edge of the coffee table by the sofa. He and the chair toppled to the floor. I stood coldly where I was. He trembled, using his hands to brace himself, and tried to stand, only to crash down to the floor with a thud the next second. He looked up at me, pleading, "Please. I'm begging you, don't." I took the agreement from my bag and slapped it in his face. He threw the document away, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Leora, after all these years between us. I love you so much, how could you be so heartless?" "Me, heartless?" His words made me laugh. "Yes, I am heartless. Unlike you, who can make love and hate flip in an instant." At my words, he seemed at a loss for how to react, even his breathing seemed to stop. After a long while, he finally let out a deep, ragged breath. He bowed his head and muttered to himself, "When I was 17, I was framed, beaten by a group, humiliated. I could tolerate all that, but when the school wanted me to drop out, I was truly scared. I tried desperately to explain, desperately to cry for help, but no one stood up for me, only you." He looked up at me with a dazed expression. Because you helped me, they bullied you along with me. I thought you'd be like me, but you're so brave, so fearless. You were the one who exposed Vera and their actions to the outside world. I cut him off impatiently. Why are you saying all this? Kaiden paused, deep regret in his eyes. When I met her again, she was bowing and groveling, even kneeling before me to beg. Only then did I realize that the source of my countless sleepless fears was that weakness. I couldn't control myself, I really couldn't. I wanted to give back to her all the hurt I had once suffered. When I saw her crouched at my feet begging me, I felt truly delighted. I really couldn't control myself. I sneered. And then you slept with her? He was speechless. A tightness seized my chest, and tears slipped out of my eyes despite myself. Kaiden, stop it. Leave us both a little dignity. He shook his head desperately. No, no. I love you. I really love you. You are the light that brightens me. Without you I'd rather die. I didn't look at him. I cast one last glance around the home he had once meticulously arranged. I've already had the agency list the house online. You can stay here until it sells. With that I turned and left, resolute. Naturally I didn't see Kaiden behind me, his expression withering away inch by inch. The next day, the police called. Kaiden had jumped. He had dragged his broken body up to the roof and leapt. The police asked me to come and see him one last time. I thought it was one of his tricks again, but this time it was real. I rushed to the police station, and an officer handed me a letter they said was found on Kaiden. I didn't read it, I threw it in and cremated it with him. Those who have passed are to be left as gone. I watched the flames burning in the crematorium. Softly, goodbye, Kaiden. I'm going to welcome the better tomorrow that belongs to me.